Kcsi 95.3.
Time for us to get an update on what's happening with Faith Community Church in Red Oak, and Pastor Dave McDonald is with us this morning. Pastor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jerry.
Nice to see you again.
It is good to be seen. Good to be back on American soil. Last week I was in Mexico on the Baja Peninsula for a missions project with several people from various districts in our denomination, and so we got to, for the second time this summer, I got to visit two missions. I got to visit two missions sites, and that is just an amazing privilege.
Of course, you were there in part as a translator, I suppose.
I was, because I speak fluent gibberish.
I see. And that's their native tongue, is it?
Well, it's my native ear.
I see.
Actually, I got along okay, but I bought a purse for Connie, which turned out to be a colossal failure. I loved it. I thought, oh, she'll love this. I brought it home, and she gave me that sort of gentle, "You dear man."
I see.
Once again, it proves why men don't carry purses.
We'll see that on a garage sale.
Well, interestingly enough, I went to a good auction with Ruby on Saturday, and I picked up a adorable little bassinet for $1. Well, it's time to move that up to the attic, and I noticed in the bassinet was the purse. So the purse is going directly to the attic. It didn't even have a week of condescending, I will stare at it at a distance. It's in the attic where everything goes after it's deemed useless.
That's history already.
That's history.
Already history.
It's already in the archives.
Well, I like what you brought me.
What did I bring? I mean, you're welcome. It's my privilege to bring you anything, Jerry. Just all you had to do is ask. I did get a blanket. I got a blanket from a guy that was right by our compound. He'd drape him over the fences, and I could have a conversation. He spoke only Spanish, but we could kind of communicate enough, and I got to know his name, and his name was Christopher, and he's a pastor. And I thought, well, I'm going to give Christopher some business. So I did get a nice, one of those beautiful multicolored wool, scratchy Mexican blankets, and it's immediately down in my man cave. But the other day I noticed that it puts out a fume. I think it's from how they launder it maybe, or how they make it, because I put it on me, and I got drowsy in my lazy boy, and I found myself falling asleep. And I figured it must be the blanket.
It must be the blanket.
It must be the blanket, because I never did that before except previous times. But yeah. Blame the blanket.
So what do we have to give for the blanket?
I gave him $20.
Whoa.
And you got to know with missionaries, one of the highlights of my life is a missionary loves to have us ministry tourists there. Oh, where'd you get that? Oh, what'd you pay? And then you know what the next line is? I got that for $12. But I thought, you know what? It's Christopher. Let me bless his ministry. And, you know, what's $20? It's not like we're not going to eat this week or anything. So, yeah. And it's big. I mean, it covers me. So it could probably house a family of 5 or cover me on my lazy boy. So, yeah. So
what's God doing in Mexico?
Well, it's really neat because as you know, Jerry, we took 16 of our teenagers to the Dominican Republic, and that we have sites in our denomination called Envision sites. And these are sites set up so people right out of high school all the way into their 30s can go serve if they want to. Our denomination, Christian Mission Alliance, has always been known for really having Cadillac kind of missionaries. It's not easy to be one, but our attrition rate is less than 10%. And so when they go, they stay and live. But the next generation coming, we want to get them out there and serve because they want to be a part of something meaningful. They want to be a part of something bigger than they are. So these Envision sites were set up. So we go to the Dominican, and I got a young man who will probably next summer be serving there for the whole summer. Well, here in this site I was at in Ensenadas, whereas Dominican had lots of established churches run by Dominican people. We call those indigenous churches or national churches. In Ensenadas, it's like a pioneer work, Jerry. There's just a couple of churches, and it's a vastly unreached area. So I got to watch how they are just establishing a beachhead, and Envision's attitude is we're here to serve. So they'll come alongside the local church, and they may find someone with a need in their home. You know, it's that fine line. There are several ministries doing other things like what we might see Habitat for Humanity do, but they go in and try and come alongside what's happening and serve. And it's just, it was fun to watch. It was humbling. We went to a service one night where they had a team up leading in music, and I would say the average age of the team up there of 7 was probably 15. And they played drums and guitar and sang. It was just so cool. to see the next generation, and they're still the church of today, up there doing that. So yeah, God's doing good things down there, one person at a time.
Very interesting.
And then, Jerry, of course, we had our Vacation Bible School 2 weeks ago, and we set a faith missions offering goal of $4,500, and we raised $4,550. Well, $3,500 of that has already been spent because we are buying part of a water filtration system in a third Envision site, which is in El Salvador, which is where Victoria Showalter, you had Julie here when we interviewed Jamie Smith a few weeks ago, her daughter, she was there for 6 months. And this church gets those, like the bubblers, those 5-gallon bubblers you turn upside down in the office water cooler. They sell those into their community. The going rate is $2. They sell theirs for $1. And in that very unsafe community, you buy your water. And so they're able to fund their ministry and make it half as expensive to have drinking water. And we help purchase a machine that'll help seal those units. So instead of a slow process of using a Black & Decker heat gun to seal it with the top, we've bought the machine that's going to close it and seal it. And then they can stack a room, and they will always have, because they already had the water filtration system, but they didn't have the finished delivery in place. So now they're going to be able to just have whatever the community needs they can offer. We were a part of that miracle.
How soon will they have that?
Well, right now we're this is where I'm kind of on the outside watching those that are smarter than me do it. Right now which is so hard to find someone smarter than me, as you well know, Jerry. They're in the process of working with the company and purchasing it. And so it's in the process. So I guess the ultimate answer to that is probably a shipping answer. The product's here. We are purchasing it, but it's a done deal. It's the shipping issue because we're going to get it down there as soon as we can. I don't have that answer yet, but I will keep you appraised of that. Since we raised $4,550, we have and turns out, Jerry, we've counted up the offering, and we announced $4,550, but we're closer to $4,675. So that remaining money we are giving to the Dominican Republic Envision site where we served earlier this summer, and we will be putting water filters into homes of people in villages where their water is not safe. And the simple filtration system, you and I might parallel that to like a pure water system or some of those other systems we know in our refrigerator. You pour it through the filter. A little bit more involved here because what it needs to filter out is a whole lot more than what we have to filter out. But it'll allow homes to have safe drinking water.
Well, that had to be pretty exciting for your Vacation Bible School students, I would think.
The last offering was Sunday after we had one service. We had a barbecue. Then at 1 o'clock we did the close. And at that point, before we took the offering, we had raised $1,400. So we were going to need to see $3,100 come in. And I got to be real honest with you. I'd already determined, because we had said, Jerry, if we raise it, Melissa's got to kiss an exotic animal. But I had told her, Melissa, we will celebrate whatever comes in, and whatever comes in will go. Even if we can't buy that $3,500 thing, we will give it all to them to get the good jump on it. But I was going to be honest, and I was going to say, no, we didn't raise it. It's not going to happen. So I can't tell you it was my faith that made it happen, but when we counted it up, we were there, and it was amazing. And you should have seen Melissa kiss the bearded dragon, because that's what it was. His little tongue is always sticking out, and it probably took her 3.5 minutes of working up the courage and tossing threats and condemnations to her own father prior to, can you imagine, prior to kissing that gentle little giant.
Did the boys or the girls win?
I'm so glad you asked, Jerry. The girls have been on a dominant run. They have been the New York Yankees of the last 6-7 years, and the boys won, and they won handily. So it wasn't even. I shouldn't say they won handily, but they won. So there was joy in Mudville that night, whilst the boys took home the winning prize, and the girls got that little half-opened eye glare that all women get when they look at us, Jerry, and go, you just wait. So I hope the boys are saving up for next year, because I think there's going to be a war.
Overall, though, it sounded like, from talking with Pastor Brett last week, a good Vacation Bible School.
It was so good.
Lots of young people were impacted. And
Yeah, we did it later than normal, and so frankly, we felt that lots of people getting in their last vacations or their last round of shopping and this and that. So numerically, we weren't where we're normally at, but we had a terrific crew of kids, and as usual, the people of faith community are. I'm amazed at lay people, and by lay people, Jerry, I mean people who have jobs. And our Vacation Bible School started Wednesday night, so these are people that had already put in probably 3 full days of work, and instead of going home and relaxing Wednesday, they came and helped launch and then served Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon for our VBS. So it was just incredible. I come away from those times. I talk a lot. I'm a professional in that I speak, but I can't. I am dumbfounded at those times. I can't speak. I'm just so humbled by the people and by what God does. And that's where I was at. You can tell it's a miracle because I get quiet.
goodbye, Brett. Tell us what the schedule is there and what's happening with that.
Well, and I will tell you next week he'll be here with you because that'll be into his last, is that his last week? Close to it. Well, not quite, but I will be away. We have our annual state fair visit. We're from the North Country, up there where them people wear them fur coats all the time, And so we've made the Minnesota State Fair our fair of choice for years because that's where the family's at. So off we go to eat cheese curds and Aunt Annie's chocolate chip cookies, and then we park over at the milk place for 25 cents for a bottomless glass of milk. And I may accidentally see livestock, but that's only because it's on the way to my next food court. So, Brett will be here next week. But, Jerry, his last Sunday is September 7th. He will be preaching his last message on August 31st, Sunday. We're going to do something with and for them that weekend. I've got powers that be working on that. And then his last week is here, and then they will be with us on Sunday the 7th, and bright and early the next morning, they're loading up the truck and moving to Beverly. So
he seems pretty wired, fired, and inspired about the calling and opportunity.
Jerry, Brett and I have been in this journey for months. People are continuing to get their minds around something that to him and me, we had our minds around last November, December, and began to realize what was probably going to transpire. Having said all that, to watch this guy, to watch this church that cannot wait for him. And honestly, I've been in ministry enough to know everyone gets a honeymoon. So every new person looks good. But this church, the pastor they were looking for, what they need, what they're hungry for is Brett White. And he and Heather and the girls are just going to have, plus they're on the Catskill mountain range, which pray for me because I have bitterness toward him that... Although, Jerry, guess what their snowfall is a year? 90 to 100 inches of snow every year. So I'm just telling them lots of luck there. Make sure that snow thrower has a real high adjustable chute on the top of it. So, yeah, he's wired, inspired, and as typical, he's ending with us well. I don't think anyone would get the impression he's already left, and he's just mailing in his ministry here. We met yesterday for several hours, and he's just going to do what I always knew he would do. He's a dear friend. I will miss him. If it weren't God leading him, I'd be leading the charge to say don't go. But we're excited for them. We really are.
They're moving to Delhi, New York, in case you didn't listen and happened to catch the program last week.
Yeah, Delhi's a little smaller than Red Oak, Jerry, but they have a satellite university there, New York University. So they have 2,000 college students every fall come in. So then it increases the population by 50%. So yeah. So it should be just great fun.
Kingery's are settled in here.
JD and Amy, I won't say we've started a war with the Kingerys, my house and their house. We're the Hatfields, they're the McCoys, but it could be at the auction that when I bought that bassinet for $1, it's because my wife across the room looked at me and nodded her head, and I thought that was a bid and get it nod, and it was come on over and sit by me nod. Well, $1 later, I found out I was wrong, and they owned a bassinet. Now, inside this bassinet, Jerry, are two very large plastic dolls One of them looks like there was a model for Linda Blair in The Exorcist. And the other one just looks kind of like, if you know your really bad movies, this is probably a friend of Bride of Chucky's. So they're very scary, old, odd, cheap dolls. Well, they've been migrating back and forth between us and the Kingeries. Now, why did I tell you that? We decided coming home from the auction to prank them and set them up in their house somewhere on their porch. We knew they were gone. What we didn't know is at the same time they were pranking us at our house because they knew we were gone. Here's what I want to go on this wonderful story I'm telling you. I couldn't find their house for a moment because it does not look like they've moved in. It looks like they have been there for months. Amy could take anything. It's just a beautiful home. So yes, they're settling in. JD picked up 2 chairs for $1 at this, and you can tell I go to auctions to spend serious money because I've already mentioned 2 $1 bids. And Amy's already taken those chairs and turned them around. They'll be in JD's office, and they're just beautiful. So they are settling in wonderful. I'm trying to remember what it was like before they came.
Financial Peace University.
That is going to start this next Tuesday, Jerry, and Financial Peace is for people who have to use money. If you're out there still using beaver pelts or promising goods delivered, maybe you don't need it. But if you're like some of us that actually use a thing called money, I would invite you to come to our Financial Peace. We've already got lots of people coming. Next Tuesday night, all you need to do as a couple or as an individual is you need to buy a kit. The kit is $93. But if you come to our church, even up through the weekend, and pick the kit up, you will not have to pay shipping, and we're going to knock it down to $88. So we'll take $5 off. And if you do deal with money, you're probably one of 3 people. You're those people that you do a good job with your money. It's kind of like your car. You take it, you service it regular, and it's well run, but you do service it regular. And Financial Peace is a great way to pull your budget into the shop. You like this word picture, Jerry? And do a good overall maintenance check and make sure you've not forgotten what you know better. And sometimes with finances, a few more things the kids are in, a few more bills that pop up, and suddenly we're looking back and we're finding, we need to get back into shape, if you will. Then you may be there. Financial Peace is perfect for you. I got people in my church that have never taken FPU that I would go to them for financial advice. I hope they still come. Now, you might be the middle person. It's just life, and depending on whether there's a broken arm this month or whether the car decides to quit making that clunking noise, you're okay, but you don't have a lot of money at the end of the month, and sometimes you have the end of the money before the end of the month, and you just need to learn some tools that you've never known. And Financial Peace is fantastic for you for that. You're not going to win the lottery and discover new sources of money, but what you're going to find is the money you have, that you already have, goes way farther than you thought it was possible. And you will look back and not feel like you've suffered or done without. You've just changed your thinking. Or, Jerry, you're like me, how I was back in the early 2000s. I was a financial disaster. I was not managing my money well. I hadn't impulse bought a lot of fancy toys. I just was doing life. Engines break down, daughters go to college, and the simple reality was I was spending more than I had. And so maybe you're like that out there, and Financial Peace is great for you. Now, you need to know, when I made that turn in my life, I was embarrassed, and I probably went through a little season of kind of, pretending like I was fine. But once I did the honest evaluation, and that usually begins with a long look in the mirror, that usually that person in the mirror is the one you got to deal with first. Then, of course, your spouse. And then what happens is we came and began the journey, and we are on the other side of that, Jerry. I can teach it. I can help moderate it because Dave Ramsey has his own sessions we look at. But I'm an example of what happens when you do it right. And that just proves anyone can do it right. So that's next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. All you have to do is show up. In fact, Jerry, if you're not sure you want to give FPU a 9-week try, because it's 9 weeks, we're always heading home before 9 o'clock. We will be done with all of FPU before Halloween. So you'll get it wrapped up. And by the way, I was reading an article this week, and I don't know if you guys know this, but right after Halloween, about a month later, comes Thanksgiving. And what's really weird is about a month after that comes Christmas. And I remember all the years when I didn't manage my money that Christmas always snuck up and surprised me. He doesn't do that anymore. I happen to know it's going to be on the 25th of December, and I'm looking forward to it. So, you'll be all done by Halloween. You'll be ready for the holidays, the end of the year celebration, and you'll be able to buy gifts that don't break your bank. It'll go great. Starts this next Tuesday night, Faith Community Church. You can come the first night for the lesson. You do not have to buy a kit. And at the end of that night, if you decide, no, great. You owe us nothing. Well, you owe us nothing, but you don't have to buy a kit, and off you go. So the first night is open to anyone. And Jerry, if we have people that have attended in the past, they can come free. Once you're an alumni FPU, you can come back. You can pick and choose what lessons you want to go to. You can come back for all of it. We always have alumni coming back, again, just to stay sharp and tune up. So it's out there and it's available.
If I'm planning on coming, would you like for me to let you know that I'm planning on coming?
You know, it would be nice, but frankly, we have plenty of kits. So the only reason why knowing in advance would be nice is I try to buy some cookies and some drinks and stuff so people, some come right from work, have a little snack. And I would hate to have leftover cookies at the end of the night because then I'd have to figure out what to do with them. And I'd like not to have that pressure of being a good steward and a proper manager of the cookie empire. So, yeah, but you don't have to call. You can just show up. But it helps us. I mean, I would like to look forward to seeing you there. But if you don't call, in last FPU, we had a lady, because, Jerry, you ran some spots leading up to FPU, little spots off of our interview, and a lady at 5:30 Tuesday night driving home, here's that spot, literally does a U-turn in her car and drives into her parking lot. And she was just a phenomenal member of our FPU class. Lovely lady. So you can even decide Tuesday night.
It starts what time?
7 o'clock, Faith Community Church, north on 8th. You head up north past Highway 34 going up the hill. We are on the left-hand side on the west. I'd get there at 15 till so you can make sure you get your favorite cookie flavor. But if you show up at 7, we're going to be ready for you. We'll have kits there. And again, if you're there just to look that night, you will not be given any pressure to buy a kit. You just come, sit down, and watch.
Just come in the main doors on the east
Yeah,
side?
on the east side, on the south side of the door, south side of the building, the double doors. Doors, if you were coming to our church, you'd normally go for the service. We will do it in the sanctuary because it's a nice big screen, and we redo the chairs so it feels a little bit more open and relaxed. Although we may change that, depending on our numbers. Sometimes there's a fine line between feeling like you're meeting in the Grand Canyon and feeling like you're meeting in an open room. So we'll watch our numbers, and we may adjust. But yeah, come in double doors. We'll be ready for you.
Open to anybody from anywhere?
Open to anybody from any... Well, if you're still exchanging in beaver pelts.
Right, that's right. There wouldn't work.
We don't have a good beaver pelt system to how to budget. I know Steve Berendis has a beaver in his pond, and I think he'd be willing to provide collateral to anyone that's interested. But I'm not allowed to say that because I believe you're not supposed to hurt beavers. So I have not said that on the radio, but that's an option. But I can't help you, Jerry, if you're still trading in beaver pelts.
All right. What else do you have you want us to know about?
Well, I will let you know that tonight our prime time meets at the Pizza Ranch, and tonight we're having Pastor Brett and Heather White come and speak. And, of course, at 6 o'clock at the Pizza Ranch, you can show up, buy a meal, and join the gathering in our little meeting room, or you just show up. We have folks that do both, some who actually eat earlier in the day, and Pizza Ranch is very gracious. They don't act like everyone has to buy a meal for you to sit in here. Obviously, it's good food, so if you haven't eaten, I got a great idea for you. And it'll start at 6 o'clock, and it'll be their chance to connect with the Whites. And prime time, Jerry, is for people that are way older than you and me. These are people in their 50s and 60s and older. And they just come and fellowship together. So that's tonight. Pizza Ranch, 6 o'clock. Show up, bring your appetite.
All right.
The only other stuff I have, because, Jerry, we're kind of building up a head of steam going into our fall programs, but we don't have our launch dates yet, because this is how we launch our fall programs, in our Wednesday afternoon programs. We don't launch until we're ready. So as much as we feel the pressure of the calendar, we get our team solid, we get them trained, we are planned, because we do everything from jump, which is 4th grade on down, which will be coordinated and head up by Pastor J.D. Kingery. And already one of Pastor Brett's girls came home Sunday from the class Brett had taught, and he said, "Dad, he's the best children's pastor ever." And Brett just said, "Well, thank you very much." So we have that. We have our Shout program for grades 5 and 6, and, of course, our junior and senior high exit program. So I don't have the launch dates yet, Jerry, because we're getting wired and inspired and ready. Already making plans for fifth quarter after one of our football games in September, but I'm not ready to declare dates yet.
If you were the pastor of a church in Ferguson, Missouri, what would you tell your congregation?
I have a very good friend that a pastor of a church in Ferguson, Missouri. These kinds of things, Jerry, and of course, I hate to imply this, but because I know there are several in the information news business who fight to be accurate, but the way the story was twisted from the beginning and shared wasn't accurate. Now, any fatality is wrong and horrible, and there are not many police officers that would will that kind of outcome. So instead of immediately villainizing the police and immediately assuming it's race, we tried to look at the story and realize that there was behavior and, in fact, a robbery prior to. That's been proven. There's recorded conversation that proves this. This doesn't take away the tragedy. And so when I look at Ferguson, the tragedy is this. There have been hard feelings long before this happened. I personally don't think it's always race. Now, I am of less and less a majority race. I'm white. We are actually becoming the minority in the U.S., but here are the facts. I believe racism really is a devaluation of an individual. Maybe because of color, maybe because of sexual preference, maybe because of their looks, maybe whatever, because I don't like their last name. But racism isn't a color issue, it's an attitude issue. And I have found, now I don't know that this is true in Ferguson, but I have found a lot of people who feel like they're victims of racism practice racism as they view those whom they assume are misjudging them because of color. I believe making racism the issue, and I'll probably offend someone here, but I'm sorry, I believe that's lazy thinking. Yes, there is racism. Yes, there are people who judge you unfairly by looking at you, or because they've heard something about you and they've never bothered to verify it, and they've drawn their conclusions based on inaccurate information. That's everywhere. But racism only affects, because I'm a white evangelical. Politically, I'm a minority. I'm a man that tries to walk in integrity. I'm a social conservative. Trust me, in the news world, in the portrayal of programming, I'm not only the minority, I'm often the first target to be made fun of on a comedy, what I believe, not me personally. So I get what it is to be on the outside looking and going, you don't understand what I really am. But racism has everything to do with me, Jerry. So if I'm a pastor in Ferguson, I'm reminding people all this event did, this tragic event, was expose what was already there. It didn't create the racial tension, it exposed it. And my friend Michael, who's down there ministering, and in his church trying to be in the middle of that, and obviously the first thing when these things hit, you start talking about our response. Because a response is often what takes a tragedy and turns it into something destructive. So you talk to people about how do you respond to this, because you can't stop what happened, but you can decide how you respond to it. And I love how the scripture reminds us that's why we bless those who persecute us. We love those who don't treat us right. Or even better, scripture implies don't try to think of the person's intent. You don't know what's going on inside of them. So don't just judge by what you think you see, because no one knows the motive of the heart except God. So my reaction, Jerry, to what happens, it determines whether this becomes something critical. Haven't we all had children who did that wrong thing, and we go to them and we say, child, did you do this? Their reaction to that question determines whether this becomes a very quick teachable moment of correction or whether this prolongs out and the issue then becomes you lied, you not only disobeyed, but you lied. And if you're like one of my daughters, and I won't mention her name because it's Melissa, this might drag on for a long time before she'll own up that it was a lie. So the whole issue has changed. Yes, you want to go back to this original act where you didn't obey, but the response you gave me has created a bigger issue. That's what's happened down there. There are a lot of angry people, and I ache for them, and I ache for a system that, in my opinion, keeps many of them stuck instead of enabling them to get out. Because I think when you give someone everything they want, that's poorly put. I think when you give people things that they don't really have to earn, that is one of the cruelest things you can do in an individual. Now, for temporary seasons, providing meals when there's been a loss in the family, providing temporary help because there's a disability or there's a schooling situation taking place where the goal of that schooling is to make me independent, make me able to care for myself, that's a perfect time to come in and help and assist. But the end is there will come a day when you will be signing the front of the check instead of the back. When we do that to people, that to me is racism at its worst, devaluing the worth of the person. And I grieve for the anger. I grieve for the loss of this family. And I grieve for all the misguided emotions that robs us from looking at what really happened. Because emotions always fog the issue. And then we start dealing with the emotions and we forget the issue. And the issue was a broken system and a broken young man. And a police officer who will forever have to live with that. And if you know police officers, they are mostly good men and good women. And they are not out to hurt. And they face more stuff than you and I would even want to think about. So and I haven't talked with Michael yet. I've been praying for him. I've talked with someone near there, but that's from what I've heard what Michael's doing, and Michael's just a lovely man, just a lovely young African-American man, just a sweetheart of a man. And he's doing it. He's right in the middle of that, doing it.
Services this Sunday?
We're going to have services this Sunday at 9 and 10:45. Sorry about that, folks. It's my daughter from North Dakota calling me, which means my grandchild needs a hug. 9 and 10:45 at our 10:45 service, we have our Sunday school for all ages, and you can come as your. By the way, at 9 o'clock, Jerry, we do have a nursery, and we do have an incredible class for 2 and 3-year-olds. And we had 9 kids in that class last Sunday, and they just have a blast. So, and our goals eventually will have Sunday school during both times. But again, we don't launch a ministry till we're ready to do it right. So 9 and 10:45, and Jerry, all you have to do to show up is bring yourself. Although I have found people come to hear me preach, but they're not actually there. Mm-hmm. You heard about the pastor that prayed, God, we pray for those who are here this morning who couldn't be with us. So I get a little bit of that, but I won't mention any names. 9, 10:45 this Sunday. Show up. Love to have you. If it's your first visit, we'll treat you like it's your third visit. And if you've been here forever, we'll treat you like it's your first visit.
Financial Peace University starts Tuesday night.
Yeah, this Tuesday night at... Oh, will you be quiet? Hi, folks. You're not hearing this, are you? My phone's stopping already. What'd you ask, Jerry? You're starting to confuse me now.
Why does it whistle like that?
Well, because I said it to this dumb... I just realized this text is from Connie. She may be yelling at me about something we need to announce. Shout.
Shout.
Exit starts September 10th, Jerry. I have gotten the stone tablets from the mountain have just been passed to me from on high from... You know, that Supreme, my wife, and Shout, which she spelled it as shoot because she doesn't know how to text. That starts, so Shoot, ladies and gentlemen, starts on the 17th. And so Shout, of course, is 5th and 6th grade. That's because I'm in such trouble. Jerry, can I stay at your house tonight? Shout's going to start on the 17th, and Exit Junior and Senior High is going to start September 10th.
Very good. Thank you, Connie.
Hi, honey.
We all know where he would be without you.
Oh, you got that right. I want to tell you, talk about marrying way above my pay grade. I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for that lovely lady, I don't know what would happen. You know, when I interviewed here back in 95, they kind of liked me. And we were at the firehouse, and because we had to have the meeting there because one of our guys on the board was a fireman. And they met with me, and I can read people. We've met worse. He's okay. We've seen worse. Don't ask us right away, but we've seen worse. Then they met Connie, and you just knew what they were thinking. Well, if we got to get him to get her, this is a no-brainer. So they called my lovely Connie and let me come along.
Very good.
Hasn't changed, Jerry.
You are blessed. There's no
I
doubt
am
about it.
highly favored. Highly favored.
All right.
All right,
Anything
my
else?
friend. You know what? I think that's it. Yeah, God is good all the time. Some wonderful stories these last couple weeks of how He moved. One of our people coming to the site in Mexico had an encounter with a frightened little girl on a plane as she flew to our meeting. Wonderful story. Just little when God allows us to see Him at work. I think that's just a cool thing. So God is good all the time.
That's absolutely right.
Amen. Amen.
Good to see you.
Good to see you always.
Thank you much.
You bet. Now, next week I won't be here. We'll have Pastor Brett here. I will be eating a turkey drumstick somewhere.
Oh.
I know. You have to be nice to him. It's his last time.
Other than the food, what's your favorite what's your favorite food at the Minnesota State Fair?
Well, I was going to say, other than the food, I was hoping you were going to ask what's your favorite part of the fair, because I'd have to say the parking lot. Because my favorite, they're cheese curds. No. Their chocolate chip, no. Their brats are amazing. You know what?
I'll bet their brats are good.
Oh, I want to tell you, get up there where them German people live, and they know how to put that stuff inside the stuff. And then I'll tell you what, it'll make you smile even if you don't want to. So, yeah, and honestly, we don't pig out. We just enjoy being together and seeing the sights and sounds. We just love the atmosphere of it. So,
Whole family will get to go?
whole family. From there, we spend the Labor Day weekend together. And all my girls, all my son-in-laws, all my grandkids were together in one roof. And that is the highlight of my year.
Yeah, that's great.
Because, Jerry, coming up the end of September, we will start auditioning for the Carol. So, getting exciting days up ahead, my friend.
Just around the corner.
Just around the corner. Which, by the way, this year, December 25th, will be the day Christmas falls on.
There will be this year?
It's not yet a congressional act, but that's what they're determining. So, if you want to figure out how to have a good Christmas shopping list, I recommend FPU starting next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, Faith Community Church.
Make it a good day.
You too, my friend. Bye-bye.
Pastor Dave McDonald, Faith Community Church in Red Oak. You're always welcome. God's there waiting for you. Stop and see him.